Hello everyone, I hope you've seen that hat because I'm really happy to show you how to make it as a tutorial that focused on color work from perspective of mosaic knitting and standard color work. The difference is that in one you hold only one strand of yarn while you're knitting in the round, and in the other one you're knitting with two strands at the same time, and therefore with mosaic knitting you have to kind of repeat it with a second color. However, if you're here for the first time and you're just a beginner knitter and you want to start somehow, I would recommend you to check this Just Knit hat. It's a free tutorial knitting pattern and also written pattern you find in the description of that video. I'm going to put in the eye over here so you can find it easy, and maybe in the description down below, where you just do a knit stitch. It is for right-hand knitters. Handed knitters, I think that's how we say it. And if you master this knit stitch, you can go and check this free pattern. It is Let's Purl hat. So basically we will introduce purl stitches in the brim section. The rest is the way you've done it in the first hat. Therefore, as it is December 2020, I was thinking to maybe give you a small gift for my viewers, for those old and new, and saying thank you for subscribing, liking, commenting and watching. That's the most important thing on YouTube, is watching, and this is kind of the way I want to say thank you, because I know how much you like watching my knitting tutorials than my finished object videos. However, I would say once you get better in knitting, then you can browse through my finished object videos and find something you really like, and then you can definitely be able to recreate it. If you have any suggestions for the next knitting tutorial, leave the comment down below and we shall see what I can do. And here it is. This is a hat. I think it's a little bit more festive. Festive, so I hope you're going to enjoy it, and it's very simple to knit. I'll show you how I at the same time design and try to fix mistake if I make some. The tools. For the previous two hats we used drops and this yarn, and we used either 7mm, which is US size I think 10.75, and 9mm, which is US size I think 13, and somehow I don't know where I put those needles, and I knit this hat using 6mm needles, which is US size 10, and I stick to it. So it's all using one size, and I did not use DPNs either for the creases, so you will see that too. So I used the drops and this yarn. This is the pink one, however the other one is slightly different. I got it from Knit Crate yarn subscription. I open it and share it with you guys. So down below I'm going to put affiliate link, and maybe over here it's paid promotion. But basically the only way they support me is if you buy a box. I would say you're the one who supports your yarn. It's beautiful yarn. If Knit Crate is watching, please get me some more of this. Check it out. On the side we have 82% merino wool, 18% Peruvian Prima cotton, and it's amazing. You could see 109 yards in 100 grams, and if we have to compare, the drops says they have 105 yards. Okay, if you don't have yarn like this, what you can do, you can definitely probably grab DK weight yarn, which will say it's like 200 meters in 100 grams. But if you hold it double, then could be ish the same, like 100 meters, 100 yards, you know, yardage per set. So play with that. Quickly before I even start, I'll tell you slightly what I did over here. I cast on 65 stitches, but then I wanted to put a color work in it, and I needed to have 4 stitches repeat per pattern. So basically from 65 stitches cannot be dividable by 4, so I had to either decrease or increase stitches, and this is what we'll be doing. We'll be increasing stitches in the round, evenly in the round. Sometimes some patterns say that, and people don't know what to do, so I will be explaining you that. Then we're going to go and draw this pattern in regards to the chart, and there are 2 ways I'm going to show you the color work that can be done. First part that I'm doing in mosaic knitting, and then I'm drawing the chart that I kind of come up with that you can find in my patterns, so it's easier to follow than just written instructions. And then I'm going to show you by those 2 how to do a standard color work when you hold 2 strands together, and how I read the charts like that. The charts are read from bottom right to the left. I haven't had a plan to make this video, so it's going to be a lot over the place. Hopefully you're going to like it the way it is. Second of all, I will be repeating mosaic knitting over here because this one was quite tight. I think my floats, even though I was telling you to stretch them, didn't, and you may not see that lovely stitch over here coming out, but it's a ver, I'm telling you. So that was mosaic, that's color work, standard, and this is mosaic, and I got slightly better. So as you can see, it's just a matter of practicing. I haven't knitted with a chunky yarn a while back, so it's just a way of getting used to it. And then we go into the creases, and there's a few ways of decrease hats, and over here I just went with the flow, and I was looking at the pattern, and I was trying to come up with something that will end up nicely. And in case you're wondering how it looks like this. And here is beginning and end of the round. I think I tried to do some slip stitch over here or lift up the leg too nicely done, but didn't work out for me, so I just left it the way it is. So just a warning for that. And don't be afraid to slow down or speed up. Here, just click over here, this knot icon, and it says speed, or pause when you need to come back with it. So without further ado, let's knit. As you can see, this is not the hat that I've knitted, but this is the hat that I'm going to take idea from. This is my just knit hat, free tutorial, free pattern. I'll put links down below if you want to just follow the instructions. However, what we're going to do, we're going to play a little bit today. So what I'm thinking, I'm going to create the same brim that I have over here in this pattern, a structure for this one too, although maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger, so sloucher, and I'm going to add some color work. However, I have a dilemma. The only worry I have is the needle size that I have. Obviously, if I start using 6mm, and the tension that I get, the stitches over here will be way tighter, so the gauge will be tight gauge. To do this hat, I think I use 45 stitches. Therefore, for this one, I think I'm going to cast on 65, and it is purely my guess. For any brim that I want to do, for any folded brim, my favorite method of casting on is back loop cast on method. Basically, we will just make a loop, put the end underneath, and just scoop it like that, pulling two together. And then holding yarn like this, we're going just put the needle underneath and pull it. Let's do 65. Done. But as you can see, the edge over here is kind of wonky, so I need to stretch it out and make sure that it's not twisted. So the way we do this, like me, you can put it on the flat surface and make sure that the edge is inside of our lovely U letter, and that way we can grab it and have it ready to knit. Before we do that though, I need to put a marker. Well, anyway, this is what I found. Anything with a loop will work. So from now on, I'm going to knit. And the way we knit, we put the needle in the front, right? We wrap it. So either you wrap the yarn under and over, or you're thinking about needle and you're going over and under, and then you're pulling it through. Repeat that. If it's too difficult, don't worry, you can knit through the back loop just now, just for this first round, if it's easier. So just to let you know, the right way of knitting is knitting through the front leg of the stitch. So if you're knitting through the back, you may end up having a twisted stitches. At the end of the day, it is nothing to worry about. Twisted stitches are as beautiful as the standard knit stitch. However, it is only up to you what kind of effect you want to get at the end. When you finish a round, now double check that this edge that it's going to grow now, every round we make, is in the center. Okay, you can slip the marker over here, but what if it's not? So let's pretend that something wrong has happened, and it will look like this. So what you can see, that it goes inside, but then it goes under and comes out this way. So in the first round you can easily fix it by just flipping the needle around and fixing it this way. Okay, so there's no need to frog, just do this. And as you can see, that's pretty nice. And from now on, our intention is to have knit stitches, not twisted stitches. So we have to knit through the front leg, so through the center of the stitch. And I'm going to do a total of 5 rounds, and I'll be back. Off you go. I have done 5 rounds. So just to check it, and let's slip marker and let's see. So as you can see, we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to do fold. We're going to fold and knit. As you can see over here, we have the end. So that kind of tells me where the round starts. I'm going to, and those purls. So these are the purl stitches over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you can see, whoopsie, as you can see, this is the end. So what I'll be doing, I will be grabbing those, hopefully you can see them, those little legs. So we're going to grab the first one. It's on edge, put it on the needle, right? Now we're going to grab the yarn from the ball and we're going to knit those two together like this. Okay, so again, let's find out. We could see the yarn is coming out from here. As you can see, we're getting it nice brim all in the round, and I'll be back. Yes, so as you can see, I'm almost back, and I have this end, and it's up to me. Do I want to tuck it in while I'm doing a fold, or basically at the end when I finish a hat, I will just put tapestry needle and just pull it through over here. I think I'm going to keep it, so your call, and that way I will definitely know where the back of the hat is. I love folded hats because they give a really beautiful finish around. Now we have to decide what are we going to do. Before I join a yarn, I'm going to do 2 rounds. I finished 2 rounds and I want to add an extra round. However, what I'm thinking out loud now is that I have 65 stitches on my needles and I want to do color work that will require me to have 4 stitches repeat. Okay, so let's plan a color work. I'm thinking I'm going to have a pattern repeat 4 stitches. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on this one and this one. Repeat. Hope you can see it. So I'm thinking in the middle I will have my contrast color, but over here I will have over here. So it should look like this. And this is the color work I want to do, and I can do it in 2 ways. Either I'm going to use mosaic knitting or I'm going to use color work. With the color work, this will be a chart. You will see something like this, and you will need to know that when you're doing it, you have to hold 2 strands together and either knit with a contrast color or knit with a main color. If you're doing a slip stitch method, some mosaic knitting, this is the chart I normally draw. For any rounds that I use 2 colors, I use 2 rounds. If it's just 1 color, I just use 1 round. So our 1 round is this one. Therefore, to make it, I'm grabbing this color of the yarn, so the dark one. So for me, the first column in my chart always specifies what kind of strand you're going to lift and knit with. So let's start with the color one over here, and I will be knitting and then slipping purlwise other stitches, and in the main color I will slip my stitch and then I will knit the other 3. Over here, the same story. We're going to grab the color one, and instead we're going to slip slip, and then we're going to knit, which will be a dark one, and then we're going to slip. And with the main color, we're going to knit, knit, slip, and knit. And we're going to get the same results. This, as you can see, may look more complicated, but it's way easier from perspective of technique because we're holding only one strand at a time. In the color work, in the standard color work technique, we're holding 2 strands together. In both of those techniques, you need to make sure that the floats that you're creating on the wrong side, they're long enough for the fabric to naturally stretch. However, one more thing about the hat that I started, my hat has 65 stitches, and as you can see, the pattern calls for 4, and there's no way I can divide 65 by 4. Therefore, what I would need to do, I will need to either decrease number of stitches that I have on my needles or increase. Therefore, my goal is to increase. The question is, how much? In that case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to write down that I have 65 stitches and I'm going to divide it by 4. Obviously, I'm not going to get anything that is nice. It's 16.25. Therefore, it gives me an idea. I took a higher number, so 17, and multiplied by the number of repeats I want to do, which is 4, will give me 68 stitches. As we are aware, I have 65, so to get to 68, I would need to increase 3 stitches. Sometimes in the pattern tells you increase evenly in the round. So what does it mean? I have 65 stitches and I want to add 3 stitches, so I have to divide it by 3 and I'm getting 21 something. So basically what it says that I will increase 1 stitch after I finish knitting 21 stitches. Okay, so let's do that. 20 and 21. The way we can increase in loads of ways. What I'm going to show you how to do right leaning increase. So basically we're taking a right needle, we're putting it under the stitch on the left needle, and we're lifting this right leg of that stitch. We're putting it on the left needle and we're going to knit through it, and that is our extra stitch. But as you see, there's something going on up here, so I just have to knit this one again, and I increased it by 1. So we have increased 1 stitch, and let's count again to 21. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Do this. We're lifting the leg, putting on the left needle, knitting through, and then counting 1, 2, 3. And this is our 3rd stitch that we're increasing, and basically at this stage we're just knitting the end of the round or row, if that the patterns tell you to do. So basically now we have 68 stitches on our needles. Do our chart. Now I'm going to show you how to do it first with, let's go first with mosaic knitting. So the chart tells me that I should grab the contrast color yarn. That's the first square, and I'm not doing anything with it. And then it says I should knit and then slip, slip, slip. So I'm going to knit with it, right? And I'm going to slip purlwise 3 stitches. And that is our repeat. So we're going to knit, but before we do that, remember we are now creating a float on the back of our work. So let's knit this one right the way we want to, and now we have a chance or pull this yarn and make it loose. So see how flexible or stretchy, maybe the word is, our fabric is, and that float should be as long as our flexibility of the fabric. Okay, so let's again, we've knitted first, we're going to slip, 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 and that's the finish of our repeat. So we did first repeat, then we did second repeat, and we're going so on and so on. So I'll see you in a sec. Or maybe let me do a few and talk it through. So with mosaic knitting, I found it way easier for beginners because you only manage 1 strand and you can play with those floats to make sure that they're right. Okay, as you can see, I'm doing it now. That's a little bit tight, just to look at it and you'll know it's okay.
Another one, when you have those three, maybe stretch the yarn, and when you're knitting it, give it a little bit of a slack over here. That way it may have the proper length, the float. We almost at the end. I knitted one stitch and I have 3 stitches to slip, and this is the end of our chart, which means that I did everything right. If you notice yourself that you have extra or you have less, then you know what, go back and check, because it happens to everyone, even to me, that sometimes instead of slipping 3, I'm slipping 4. So yeah, double check yourself at the end of the round. Let's check what the chart says. And the chart says that now we're going to use main color and we're going to slip and knit, knit, knit. So basically now we're slipping the stitch. I'll show you. Now the charts tell us that we should slip the yarn and then knit 3 stitches, like this. So we're slipping just 1. So now the float is there, but it's not that. The float is here, as you can see, and then we're knitting 3. So in that case, basically, we're now running with the second color on the top to even up stitches. So they're the same round. Okay, I'll see you when I finish. Yes, I finished a round. Hopefully you did that too. Give yourself a pat. So well done. And now we're going to check. Now we're going to use a contrast color yarn and we're going to knit the whole round. So remember, we grab from below and we're just knitting the whole round. So maybe while I'm doing this round, I'm going to show you my lovely mosaic knitting sock collection. So maybe that's something in the future you'll be interested in. And that's how they are designed. They have a chart like that and you just follow it. You can actually compare 2 yarns now. You could see that my rose pink has 2 plies. You could actually see them. You can see the twist on it, but on my brown one you see more fluff than anything else, which I presume will give really nice effect as a contrast color yarn. Now we slipped our beginning of the round marker and we're checking what do we have written down next. And the next one I'm going to grab a contrast color yarn, but I'll be slipping 2 stitches, knitting a stitch and slipping a stitch. So I'm still holding my contrast color and I'm going to slip, slip, knit and slip, and that will be the end of my repeat. And as you can see, you don't really see what you're doing over here. So how I'll be looking at it, I'll be looking and reading the stitches below. As you can see, as you probably remember, our repeat started with the dark one and you can definitely see it over here. So this stitch is the first stitch of a repeat. So in case you get lost, always try to find yourself like a GPS by this stitch. So yeah, we're going to slip, slip, knit and slip. As you can see, double check, yes, there is a stitch, and we continue. Another thing what I like to do when I'm knitting a stitch, you know, and you see it over here, I like to count how many slip stitches I have to do to knit another one. So it's 1, 2, 3. Obviously it is not repeat, it's kind of easier for me to memorize the knitting flow. So I knitted 1 and then I'm going 1, 2, 3 and I'm knitting another one. And as you can notice in this pattern that the 1 stitch below is the center stitch of the 3 stitches that I'm going to slip. So that's also can kind of give me, like I said, GPS coordinates what I need to do with my knitting over here, just to make sure that I'm on the track. I'm knitting and slipping the last one as the pattern says. Finished. The next one I'm going to use main color and I'm going to knit, knit and slip 1 and knit again. So we can do the same thing. We're going to knit, knit. So we're going to knit, knit, we're going to slip. And then we should knit again. But for the nice pattern repeat, I know that I have to knit 1, 2, 3 until I reach to the next slip stitch. I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3 and slip. I'll be back in a second. Now, as you can see, I have finished my lovely chart in the mosaic method, so slip stitch method, and so far so good. Now I have to decide how often I would want to repeat it. I was thinking that 3 repeats in the hat will be quite cute, so I presume it would be really nice if I do maybe 2 rounds now just knitting. Let's do that. And I have done this. Okay, so next what we're going to do, we're going to repeat something like this, but now we're going to use a standard color knitting. Okay, so I do it tomorrow. So hello, I done another one. This time I used color work method, and I'm going to show you this one now. So now we're going to follow this repeat. On the first round we use 2 colors, on the second round we use only 1 color, and on the third round we're going to use 2 colors. So let's slip this, and because we're using standard color work, I'm going to hold 2 strands together. I hold my strands in my left hand, but you can use 1 strand for left, another one for right. Depends what you like. What I like to do, I like to put my middle finger between the strands, twist it to the side, and place it like this. So the pattern tells us that first we have contrast color and 3 main color. So we go contrast color, and then we go 1, 2, 3. It's a little bit chunky yarn, so I presume I will be dropping and lifting the yarn. But if that was thinner, then I would be holding them. Together. So again, I'm knitting and I'm checking is my float, long enough. Then I'm grabbing another one, and I'm doing 3. And the black one, just double check, long enough, and then I'm doing 3. Now, once I finish the first round, I'm going to go to the second, which is just contrast color. Just grab 1 strand and knit in the round. As you can see, the round is finished, and I'm going to go to the third one when we start with 2 main color, 1 contrast, and 1 main. So once I reach this color, there will be only 3. And now we can totally read our knitting. So look what you have below. So basically now every time I will knit a contrast, it should follow what it's below. Next thing, remember how you take your strands, otherwise they will do this. What do I mean by that? So let's say for knitting 3 stitches, I will take this main color from below, right? And I'm knitting 3. I need to remember that then the brown goes over. Okay, maintain the float. And then I drop this and I have to grab the one from below. Otherwise, if I'll be twisting it, then you'll be twisting yarn. So I don't think you want that. Not sure am I doing it right or not, but I'm going to check myself now without looking at the chart. So I'm going to above knit a stitch, check below. Yes, this is the way it should go. Lovely. See you after this one. So I have finished the round, and I'm fix that thing the way I want it to without that slip. Anyway, check it out yourself. Does it work better for you than me? You see, it's not really. So I'm going to now knit in the round. I won't be adding anything more, and I'll be knitting in the round. I think I might be adding still more. We shall see how it goes. But my ideal of this hat, the body of this hat, so this section and this section, will be to when I put it on and see if it's fitting me, that it covers my head. So I'll be doing the creases. As you can see, I'm knitting the 4th one, and I'm using mosaic knitting because it's so hard to hold 2 together. And then with mosaic knitting, as you can see over here, the next part would be to take the dark one, but you've seen what that was, and it was very hard to see. So in this situation, when those 2 rounds are actually equals 1 round in the color work standard knitting, I'm going to switch it. I'm going to switch it. I'm going to knit first this round, and then I come back to this one, because in the end they are the same round, and that way I presume it will be way better to see than previous time. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab the main color and we're going to knit, knit, slip, knit. Knit, knit, slip, knit. So now when I go back and I will knit this round, I will definitely see which I need to slip and which I need to knit. As you can see, I've done the round, and basically I'm going to slip now the main color and knit the contrast color, which is one strand. So as you can see, this is a color work, standard, this is mosaic. I may have done not so visible stitches over here, quite nice. So that's how it's going. And now for how long do I have to make it? And to do that, I need a measuring tape. Okay, so I have a measuring tape. On one side we have inches, on the other one we have centimeters. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put this part where my area is, because I want my hat to cover my ears, and slide it along until I place my hand on the top of my head, point my thumb on the side, and that's how I do it. So according to this, 6.5, and I still need to do, so 1, 2, 3, 4, I probably end up with 5 repeats of this color. And hello, we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wanted 6.5 inches. I think I have slightly more. Remember, more, it doesn't mean bad, it's just be bigger, sloucher, and this is what I'm aiming for actually. And now is the time for me to come up with the creases. What kind of decreases I want to do? I don't have a clue. Let me think. Anyway, so let's think out loud. From 65 stitches, I edit to 68 stitches. So that's how many stitches I have on my needles. I normally probably what we need to do, I would have to specify how many stitches I would have to take every round and how often I will have to crease round and so on and so on. But because it's not really a pattern, I just want to see how I'm playing with the yarn. Let's dive into the deep water. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the pattern per se, the way I see it. So over here, as you can see, we have this round, and what I'm planning to do, I'm planning to repeat it the way it is, but maybe instead of having 3 over here, I'm going to repeat this round the way it is. So we have 1 dark, 3 light. I'm going to do the round in the contrast color, but over here, instead of having 3 stitches, I'm going to have 2, and I will not have them 2 on each because that would be too many at once. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to see how many 64 by 4. So 68 by 4 is 17. I have 17 of those repeats, and because I don't want to do it every single one, I want to do every second. So that will be 8.5, isn't that? So it will tell me that if I do it every second, the 1 repeat probably will stay without me decreasing, and I don't know what's going to happen while doing it. So therefore, if I do it every second, and then I'll know that per round I will decrease 8 stitches. So from 68 minus, I should have 60 stitches on the needles at that point. Yes, I am there. The idea to kind of decrease 1 stitch in this lovely repeat, and because I don't want to confuse you anymore, I'm going to pick the standard collar knitting. So I'll be working with 2 strands, and the answer is yes, you can do with mosaic knitting too, but just remember to do that when you will be using only the main color. So we're going to knit 2 together, and then I'm going to knit the color. So I'm going to knit 1 because I want to do it every second, so I'm going to do 3 right over remember the direction, knit, and then now I'll be decreasing, so I'm going to knit 1 and I'm going to knit 2 together, and again without 1 without decrease, so 1, 2, 3 and 1 with the crease, so knitting 1, taking 2. Okay, I'll be back with you shortly. Now, and do I have that many stitches? Where the way I did it, I started with the first repeat, so I took actually I think 9 stitches overall, so I have 59 because I started with the crease and then not the crease, and if we know that is repeated 8 times but it was a half, the last one, as you can see, I also taken a stitch, so I went to 9 stitches, so we have 59 stitches. But no worries, I'm not going to do the math over here per se, I'm just playing with the pattern and the way it will shape. So yeah, so next thing obviously after this we're going to have 2 rounds of plain knitting. And actually, if I were smart enough and I was going through it, that those 2 rounds would be a perfect rounds to decrease. But you know, we're going with the flow. So yeah, so normally with the hats we have a 1 round decrease, and the first one that we normally knit a little bit, otherwise we will have a very sharp decrease. So that's why I'm going to do that. So 2 rounds knit. Yeah, and this is how it looks. So it does not really disturb pattern so much. Doesn't it? Just a little judgy, but anyway, let's continue. So now what I'm thinking of, I'm going to decrease over here, so where those 3 stitches are. So at the end of the day I will end up with just 1 contrast color and 2 main color. Okay, so let's try that. So the first one is we're going to use a color, right? Then we should have 2. Then we're going color. And then there should be 3. So I'm going to do 1 and knit 2 together. So basically what I'm going to look at, you see those black ones over here. So I'm going to make sure that I always end up with a contrast color, so the darker color. So now I should be doing under, and I'm going to do 2, right? And I'm going to go contrast color, and then let's see, it's over here, and I know we only want to have 2, but that way I'll have to have 3, so one of those I will have to decrease together. Hopefully it makes sense. It's just I'm showing you the way I think when I'm knitting or designing, so sometimes you ask questions like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go to do color. Let's check it out. Read our knitting. So over here, as you can see, is the contrast color, so I'm just knitting 2. Okay, let's check it out. Now as you can see, it's way farther away. We have 3 stitches, so these 2 I'll be knitting together. So I hope you got the gist. I'm going to do this. I'm going to knit a row with a contrast color and be back. Okay, I done so much, and what I'm thinking I'm going to do now, because to maintain the pattern that it's equal distance between those 2 points, I think I will have to do it every second one, although that would create a very sharp decrease, and I'm not sure am I brave enough to do it, but you know what, let's try. I'm going to knit 1 with the main color, and then I'm going to knit 2 together with the second color. Will this pattern repeats? I presume it will. Yes. So I will be repeating that. Okay, so I'll see you in a while. As you can see, everything worked out pretty good. Now I have those 2 rounds that we're just using 1 main color, and I'm going to do 1 and see where we're at, and probably on the second I will decrease and may do some math. So I have 17 by 2, 34 stitches on my needles. I think I'm doing the math right. Let me know down below, maybe not. So now my question is what else I want to do. To double check, for instance, how many stitches is that? I like to slide my stitches on the cord, and it will create natural shape of the crown. So far so good. We're at this stage and that's how it looks like. You see it? So obviously we have to decrease more. I'm on the second round that I can still use this color, and definitely I would want to decrease. Question is how many stitches I want to do that. I'm presuming that because I will not be able to maintain our lovely color work pattern, I'll be doing only one contrast, one main color, and for that I will need an even number of stitches. So 34, I'll have to divide it so I have another nice number. So we're going to do now, I'm thinking of knitting 1 and knitting 2 together and repeating that, because I have 34 stitches and what I'm actually working is the 3 stitches and I'm ended up with 2. The math is not on my side, so I will end up with some stitches that are I will either knit or knit 2 together, which we will decide in a sec. So yeah, and as you can see, everything gets kind of crunchy now, and some people will change it for DPNs. But what I like to do, I like to pull the cord like this, and we continue. And as you can see, I'm knitting 2. I'm left with 1 stitch, and that stitch I will just knit. Yupa. And again, let's see, am I happy with what we have now? Yep, as you can see, it's getting there. I like this decrease, so probably I will still maintain it tight. So we almost there. Do I have set of 3s? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I will be left with 2. But I can do a color work on that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to knit 1 with the contrast color, but knit 2 together with main color. That's why I was counting 3 stitches. Okay, and again, let's pull this. We're going 1 and then 2. Now in this stage we need to make sure that the stitches we're creating are kind of tight. And then we knit 1, 2 together. So make sure that these 2 ends are close. What I'll do, I'll just pull this one, create a loop, but I'm very close to the other stitch, and I'm going to do 2 together. 1, 2 together, then 1, close ends, 2 together, and now I will just do 1 contrast color and then 1 main color. That's that. Now pull everything together and check our crown. So how many stitches do we have overall? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 16 stitches. If we pull 16 stitches, that could be okay. But what I want to do now, I'm going to cut the main color because I won't need it. Let's leave it like that. As you can see, still have a big ball. I will put that inside. So now I'm going to knit 1 round in this color. On my second round, I'm going to knit 2 together. So maybe how I do this. So I'm going to play with a bit of a magic loop knitting. So I'm going to pull some stitches on the needle, create a loop here and create over here. Remember, try to keep it close. Or if you need at this stage, you know, change 40 pns. I'm just too excited to do that. I don't even know, do I have DPN 6mm? I don't think I have, actually, because in most cases I do this. And just to keep it tight. And if you notice that you finish a hat and it's still loose, maybe the next hat change the size needle to slightly smaller, and that may help. Okay, so I'm finishing around, and now this time, next round, I'm going to knit two together. Knit two together. Left with one, I'll just pull it, as you can see, a little bit tight. Managed. And again. Okie dokie. I can take the marker off and I'm going to cut the yarn. This is the biggest I have, so I like to bend the strand and squeeze that bend through the hole in the tapestry needle, and it kind of works. I don't have to strain my eyes, I think that's how you say it. And now the way I like to actually pick up those stitches, not going through them, but is as if I would knit. So I'm slipping the stitch as if to knit. I don't know, that's my preference method. Now we pull it, and as you see, this hole slightly opens up again. So what I'll try to do, I try to lift each leg of that stitch and it will just fill it in. So hopefully, yeah, you can get it. Once I finish, I'm going inside, and that's that. So here it is, this is our crown. And because that gives a vintage vibe, I'm not going to make a pom-pom, but you can do if you want to. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this kind of designer hat with me and knitting at the same time. I hope you enjoyed this one. See you next one. Don't forget to subscribe, like, go on my social media, links down below, and tag me while you're knitting this beauty or you've knitted it. Until the next one. Bye. I love you all.